Hi everyone, welcome to this month's Spotlight On. Today we're going to be focusing on April's theme of networkology, the art and science of running a high-performing disabled employee network/resource group. This month we're talking to Rob Loseby from Fujitsu. Over to you, Brendan.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, it's great to have Rob on the call today. So thanks, Rob, for joining us. And Fujitsu and Purple Space, gosh, we go way back. So when we were founded 7 years ago, we started with 2 members, and Fujitsu was one of those 2. And of course, you're also a strategic partner to the Purple Light Up movement as well. So yeah, it's great to have you with us today. So Rob, could we just start with some introductions? So it'd be great to hear a little bit about yourself, network, how it works, your role with the network, and also kind of what brought you to that role as well, because you have a day job within the company as well. So yeah, a little bit about you.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. So I'm Rob Loseby. I actually came into Ability Matters, as it's known now, because we're no longer Seed. We had a rebranding, but more of that in a minute. So like most people with a neurodiverse condition, I had an interest in childhood with school, experiencing special needs class, which, wasn't the most joyful of things. I then joined the army, which you may think, well, where are you going with this? So I joined the army because it was in the mid-1980s and employment was very sparse and I needed a job. So I joined the army and I thought, I'll get to the rank of trooper, which is the entrance rank for where I joined, and I won't go any further. But when I was in the army, I found out that actually learning within the army is great fun. I passed all the exams. I was able to excel because the way that the army did the testing and the marking and the examination actually met my learning criteria so really well. So one of the things I like to say is that I either came top student in every army course I did, or I got 100%. But when I was in the army, initially I was told I wasn't allowed to mention my dyslexia because it could be held against me. So for many years, I didn't mention it. And then as I got on and I started to get promoted and move through, and it's commented on how well I was doing, I then actually started to share that I had dyslexia. And at one point, I actually made my commanding officer call me Sergeant Dyslexic Los, which my name is Loseby, actually, so that he could actually obviously remember that. Within the army, there are a lot of soldiers who have numeracy and literacy skills of about 7-year-olds. So I actually volunteered and went through and supported with the army education system to mentor and coach people with these neurodiverse conditions. So I completed my time in the army. I came out and I then came to Fujitsu, and just as Seed was forming, which is support and engagement for employees with disabilities, I actually volunteered to help and I became one of the active members. Now, Sarah Simcoe, who was one of the leaders of Seed, basically wanted me to lead on accessibility. Bit like on the army, who's going to volunteer for this? I can never help but raise my hand. I said, oh, I'll do that. And I got drawn in bit by bit and actually started to really take things forward. Now, Seed, as we developed, we've become very, very passionate and empowered within the business to actually support people with disabilities. And we came to about 10 years and we did a review, and this is where the name changed. So we spoke to our members and we had a vote and asked for people to suggest names. And what we actually came up with, it's not about disability, it's about our ability. So that's why we've changed our name to Ability Matters. So not only is it a new name, but it's a statement. It's about our ability that matters. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and our icon is stars with 3 arrows reaching to it, because we're reaching for the stars, because that's what we want to enable everyone to do, to be in the area where they can play to their strengths and not be held back at all, to remove any ceilings, reference pay and the purple pound, and to enable people that when they start, or if they're in work with Fujitsu, they can actually move forward. Because as I keep boring everybody, as we all know, most people get their disability or their different impairment during their working life. So as I like to say to people when I'm talking, you could be sat next to someone who's going to get a disability tomorrow. So yeah, we're very passionate and we're a very active network, and we're always trying to drive things forward. Has that answered your question?
It's more than answered my question, Rob. Yeah, that's a really interesting background, fascinating insight into two like very different worlds of work.
Ability Matters, which is the new name for the network, is a well-established network. Can you tell us about some of the network's achievements and sort of your focus over the upcoming year as well?
Yes, yeah, of course. So the first achievement we've had, and it's one that all networks really need, is to get buy-in from your CEOs. And we've had that for a number of years. So we've been very lucky with CEOs we've had. So Duncan Tate was very passionate about responsible business and diversity and inclusion. Paul Patterson, who is our current CEO, again, is very, very passionate. And the reason why is people think diversity and inclusion and responsible business is pink and fluffy. It's not. It's business driven. It has a business driver. If you have people who are made up from a diverse background, they're more proactive, more creative, which is better for the business. You're then mirroring your customers. And also, why would you want to exclude about 1 billion people on the planet as a customer? You want to include those. So to get buy-in from your executive board members, to have an executive sponsor who actually can support you and drive things forward. So not somebody who's just been nominated, but somebody who's passionate to actually support the rights and driving forward responsible business, especially those of us with different abilities. Because as I've said, a lot of our members don't identify as being disabled. They have different abilities and they play to their strengths. And that executive sponsor doesn't have to have a disability or different ability. But they could have, or their family, there could be a carer. It's just that you've got somebody there to help guide you strategically and support you, and to support you when you go to speak to the Responsible Business Board for UK and I, or Northwest Europe, that sort of thing. Some of the great things that we've done is we have a disability and workplace passport. This allows an individual to choose to have this passport to share with their line manager in a safe manner, so that they can share their concerns and their worries. Now, mine covers all of my different abilities, because I like to say the world is 3D, but that's not good enough for me. I'm 4D. I've got dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, diabetes, and I'm partially sighted in my right eye. So if I'm going to go for it, I want the whole set. So in my passport, it covers all of those conditions, what I do and the strategies I have to cope with it, and indications if my condition's getting worse. So if I get very snappy or grumpy, it's an indication that my sugar level is too high. If I'm really hyper, my sugar level is too low if I'm grumpy and snappy. If my sugar level is too high, I'm jumping around like a spring, etc. So they need to go and tell me to walk around the car park. And if I'm walking into things, that's because my right eye stopped working and I can't see anything out the right side. And that is shared with the line manager so that they understand and can help you and support you to actually perform to your best ability. And that allows, if you change line managers, you don't have to explain everything. It's documented there, and your reasonable adjustments are in there as well, so they've been agreed. So if it's you need to travel because of partial sightedness, or you're a wheelchair user, you need to let the trains know 24 hours in advance. Now, some of the rail networks, you can turn up and they'll let you on and off, but some of them you have to give 24 hours notice. So that's documented there, so that the company doesn't say, right, we need you at this meeting this afternoon. They try to give you 20 to 48 hours notice. Also as well, we're actually looking, hopefully, to improve this to the Be Completely You passport, which we want to roll out later on in this year. And this is totally exclusive and inclusive. And the reason why is it's going to be open to everybody, hopefully within UK and I, within Fujitsu. Because the world's changed. You may not have noticed, obviously COVID is here, so we have people who have long COVID. So it comes to lunchtime and they're absolutely shattered. We've got people who are shielding, who'd never shielded before. We need somewhere to document that. We've got carers who are looking after elderly parents or relatives who are suffering. Some of the people I manage, because of the great people there are, they do the shopping for their elderly neighbours and take them to the GP or hospital appointments. So we need to be able to capture that so that we're aware that they're actually doing that great work. We need to do it for foster carers and people who are going through the adoption. Maternity leave, so that we can capture and keep in touch with the young mothers, or paternity leave as well for the other partner. And finally, basically for anybody and everybody, because we have certain events in our life that affect the way we feel, such as moving. Now, moving is very stressful. That can affect your performance. So if that's in there that you're moving, your line manager will know that you're probably thinking about other things, and you don't have to have it, but it's going to be open to everybody within UK&I. And when it's confirmed, it's not been confirmed just yet, but you can opt out of it. But it will be there so that you can share the information safely and securely, and you can control who it goes to. So that's one of the great successes. One of the other great successes is we have an accessibility portfolio of documents for all of our properties within UK&I, and it's now used within Northwestern Europe. And our shared services director, Paul Brown, is actually trying to roll that out across the global, and it's been supplied to our global network for people with disabilities. And what this is a document with a statement of intent to say that we will always use the rules that are local to the site as per the local government rules. But if our rules or our accessibility provided is better than that, we will always do that, go to our level. We then have a guide which gives detailed instructions on the grade of ramps, where you need handrails, you need curbs, lighting, temperature change for people going through the menopause, sound reduction, blinds, soft lighting for people with neurodiverse conditions, considering different chairs, and also a checklist which goes through everything. So access to drinking water, can you actually get a wheelchair user in front of a vending machine? Can they see the counter in the canteens to actually see what is on offer for sale, and all of that sort of thing? And that's gone out and been taken across. And also, we're very active, and we always put our head above the parapet and point out things that, if they could be done better, that, you know, that we'd like to do them better. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
It's great to hear that the network is so integral to driving all of those, you know, such a range of initiatives. Slightly different topic, Rob, although in many ways related, but I want to ask you about Purple Light Up. So as I mentioned at the top of the call, Fujitsu is a strategic partner to the Purple Light Up movement. So really early adopter and an integral part of, you know, that movement story. And we know that the network has really embraced it as well. So just interested if you could share a little bit about, you know, why has Purple Light Up resonated so much at Fujitsu and with the network, and if you can share some examples about how you have used that vehicle in that moment as a way to promote inclusion at Fujitsu.
Yep. Well, first of all, the reason why we use Purple Light Up is it's a great method to include everybody. So we've lit up the buildings. Stevenage 04 was very purple 2 years ago. We've lit up the foyers, and it gets people talking, because everyone, oh, what's this purple, what's going on? And we do a big build up to it, and we explain what Purple Light Up is and what the Purple Pound is, because a lot of people don't know what the Purple Pound is. And to get people actually involved, so business development managers, etc. Obviously, you mentioned the Purple Pound, the customers, and it's like, oh, we're going to be involved in this. And then we use it as a tool to educate people. So that to explain that you could get a disability driving home between 18 and 65, most people get a disability. There's a lot of people, even though they are classified as disabled under the social model, like myself, they don't consider themselves disabled. So an example was that I got diabetes in my last 4 years in the army. So technically I was disabled. I was as fit as a fiddle, very slim. I know I don't look it now, but running around and, you know, no, I'm not disabled at all. I've just got diabetes. And so that's that. We also like have fun events. So one of the things we do is we go around with purple chocolates and we talk to people and explain, you know, give them a chocolate and explain that what purple light up is and how they get involved and come into some of the events. And we do educational webinars. And the one that I did last time was it's amazing what you can get people to think. So we had a load of jelly beans with different colours. And the way we did it, we spoke to them and they all had actually the same taste. But because the way we led people in and we had like smells as they were coming into the room, people were associating the red ones, or red jelly beans, that's strawberry. Or the purple one, that's grape. Oh, the green ones, that's got to be lime. Oh, that one's got to be apple. They're all the same taste. And then we had a series of flavoured mineral waters, which we had food colouring in, so that they bared no resemblance whatsoever to the drinks. And then we were getting people to taste them. And we told them there's obviously food colouring in it, etc. And it's done in a safe manner. And again, people saying, oh, yes, this is definitely this, because they were looking and actually seeing the colour and associating the colour with the flavour, or they were smelling something and associating the flavour. And then we were saying, right, okay, you know, you've done that all visually, and now I want you to make a paper aeroplane. You've all made a paper aeroplane. Close your eyes and put a blindfold on. And I read the instructions out and got them to make the paper aeroplane. And it was quite interesting to see the different shapes that we had. And everybody knew, confirmed beforehand, they knew how to make a paper aeroplane, but just to indicate that they were focusing on their sight to actually do that, or they were using their sight to actually for the taste, or their smell to actually identify. And then we've had people sharing their experiences. And one of the great things that we do within Fujitsu is we do webinars entitled A Day in the Life of Rob, or A Day in the Life of Mark. And then we basically star that person and we get them to introduce themselves a bit like this, explain what their different ability is and how it affects them, and what their superpower is. That's one of the great things that we always say to people: what's your superpower? Because just because you have a different ability, you've developed your senses or your skills to do something else. Now mine aren't particularly useful. I can recognize patterns, but because my optic nerves died in 50% of my right eye, I can see sound. So for door slams, I get a lovely kaleidoscope of really great colours in my right eye. It's got no use apart from it tells me that a door slammed, but I get that before I actually hear the sound. So that's something else we get to do. And it also draws in people who think, right, oh, so Mark's got that, have they? I know about, I'm going to reach out to Mark, I'm going to join the network. And it allows people to share and get support, because we can then signpost people to get support and the regional adjustments that they need to enable them as a business driver to actually perform better. But they are then happy, and it's loyalty to the company. Yeah. So again, hope I haven't waffled on too much and actually.
Well, there's just so much there in terms of what a range of activities as a way of drawing people in. But you know, one part of Purple Light Up is the kind of the celebratory aspect. So it's brilliant that organizations choose to use it to celebrate the economic contribution that people with disabilities make at work. But the other part is that we're always interested in the impact. And, you know, hearing you describe people coming together and, you know, creating a space where people can share their stories and yeah, have that kind of like positive impact on the people around them is really good as well.
And I may not have stressed enough, we make it fun. It's great fun.
It sounds fun.
Yeah.
No, well, I want to be at Fujitsu next December.
Oh, please come along.
Yeah, it does sound really, really interesting. And I love the fact that there's such a wide variety of things as well that you do. So it sounds like there's something to appeal to everyone really, which is great.
Yeah, that's what we aim for, Lauren.
Yeah. The next question that I have is around a tip that you may have for other network leaders who are looking to also turn their network or resource group into a high achieving, high performing network or resource group. And apart from the emphasis around sponsors and getting support from the CEO, I wondered if you had a tip for those who are looking to also achieve quite a lot within their network.
Yep. So first of all, it's a team effort. You can't do it as the chair on your own, and you also possibly need to rotate your chair quite regularly. We rotate our chair about every 2 years, so there's somebody fresh in there. So you've always got somebody with drive and driving things forward. Speak to your network, find out what your network thinks needs to be done, and then work collectively towards that. So get yourself 3 strategic goals, do a strategy on a page, and try and get some metrics so that you can measure whether it's, do you want the group to increase? So how many people have you got? So you can aim towards that. So you can demonstrate to the business that you're actually driving things forward. So it could be that, it could be people disclosing that they have a disability. And again, share positive stories, examples of why it's good to share that people have a disability or different ability, because they can get the workplace adjustments. Something else it could be, if something isn't accessible, one of the programs we have within Fujitsu at this moment in time is we're looking at our digital accessibility. And that's a big piece of work. And we're an IT company, and we sat there thinking, yeah, our stuff's, really good, it's accessible. We did an audit, and we're actually doing work to make our systems more accessible, to enable people to interact it more. So we're looking to make sure that we're WCAG 2.1 AA compliant, so that people can use a keyboard to navigate or a screen reader. And the fonts are we're looking at changing the fonts and the color so that they're more readable. And it can be small things. So if you have mandated learning, the group could actually work with the learning and development team to make sure that the learning is accessible. And it could be something small, such as we had some learning where there was a sound playing, but there was no indication to somebody who was deaf. So there's some music playing. They're thinking that the system has stopped, so they're whacking the next button, and then as soon as the music stops, it jumps on. So we now have just a closed caption that says music is playing, something as simple as that, which makes it more accessible. And on from that, we then ensure that all transcripts are provided of the learning. So again, it's small baby steps, and just raise it up, put your head above the parapet. And if necessary, just say, well, actually, it's my entitlement to have it accessible. It's written into law. It's not a nice to have. You have to provide that for me. But you'll find if you raise it, most businesses and people will actually want to help because it's the right thing to do.
It really stresses the importance, doesn't it, of networks and network leaders like yourself having that productive relationship with the business as well, where you can deliver those kind of messages and they're received in a way that ultimately leads to a productive conversation about how to fix things.
Yes, definitely.
Which leads me on, I mean, you mentioned the importance of having executive sponsorship, support right from the top of the organization. So it was something that was on our minds last month because as you'll know, Rob, we work in monthly leadership themes across our 12 months of learning development at Purple Space. So last month we were looking at senior sponsorship, and Laura and I were talking to Alia Cooper and Ian Stewart from HSBC about how they work together as network leader and exec champion. So I wonder if you could just maybe dive in just for a minute or two in a little more detail about how you have worked with your exec sponsor, current or previous, and what you think the secrets to a productive relationship is.
First thing is honesty. When you first meet, basically lay down good ground rules, and such as we're going to be totally honest, and also what we say in our meetings is perfectly safe, because you need to bear in mind your executive sponsor, they may not know the correct language, and this can be scary or worrying for them. They don't want to cause offence, so explain if they use the wrong terminology. It's not a problem because we can actually work on that. So explain that, and then be totally honest. What you may find with some of your executive sponsors, it's right, hey, follow me, let's go. And it's like, whoa, hang on a second, where are we actually going? And try to actually make sure that it's achievable so that you can actually deliver something. And it can be a big project, it can be a small project, but actually get things down in a priority, because you can't do everything in a big bang. Because a lot of the groups are self-help, best practice. You do have people who are full-time for responsible business or diversity and inclusion, but they're normally within the HR department, and they may not necessarily be living the life, and that could be for pride or well-being or diversity and accessibility. But it's having a good relationship and be able to have talk and have frank discussions. And in some cases saying, yeah, that's great building that mountain, but the first thing we need to do is we need to look at the lead booking system, because that isn't accessible for people who are visually impaired, and that sort of thing. And then build on it slowly, and actually go into the board for your executive sponsor to actually get your ideas of the group expressed. Because one of the things that we're trying to do in Ability Matters is to get everybody involved, because that person who doesn't involve may have that little nugget of an idea which could change people's lives going forward. And go back and visit every 12 months. What have we done well? What haven't we done so well? And again, give a report and a feedback to your group. This is what we've done well. Now we're now using these communication channels, and get your executive sponsors to tweet or use social media and actually push it out there, so that people understand what responsible business is and diversity and inclusion. Because the worst words I hear is, oh, I do that already. Well, no, we can always do better, and we want to make it inclusive. And why do we want it inclusive? Because you get more power, bang for your buck, and a diverse team with different abilities keeps us all in a job, keeps the shareholders happy, and it makes it a happy place to work.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Rob. Really practical stuff.
Yeah,
really useful.
Thank you so much, Rob. That's all of our questions for this interview. So thank you very much. We've learned a lot about the work that the Ability Matters Network does, and I'm sure that our members have as well. So thank you.
Thanks again for joining us. Thanks for everybody who listened, and yeah, we'll ask you to come back and join us next month when we'll be looking at the role of allies in supporting disability networks and resource groups.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.